Is he a hero or is he a criminal?
Hero or
That's the big
villain?
question.
Hero, villain, criminal, or truth teller, journalist. There's a lot of different angles.
Your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
I would ask this, Blake.
Yes.
When you said, where do we start? Oh, I got to set the time. I don't have a timer.
article?
Do you have can you
I do have a timer, I guess.
set it for 15. We're gonna
15
stick to it.
minutes. Okay.
We're gonna stick to 15 minutes on this.
Oh, and of course I turned my phone on, but that's okay. It'll be popping.
But where I normally have my timer, but
We'll get through this first world problem together, Brian.
yeah, all of my cameras are recording right now, it's streaming out through Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff. But I guess the general overview of Julian Assange. Before we get into what happened today, what's the quickest way to describe WikiLeaks, the love affair, the hatred, the back and forth with them? Just as much of the background to quickly bring us up to speed in about a minute.
Okay, like Assange is like a computer guy and hacker, perhaps, who gets a hold of information and publishes things that maybe some people would consider not publishable. And yeah, that includes classified stuff. That includes maybe embarrassing stuff like the Podesta emails and anything in between, I suppose, whatever he thinks is in the public interest. And yeah, so he's been holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in Great Britain for 7 years
Whoa!
on asylum.
Yeah.
'Cause
And you see that
a lot
picture
of
with him
people-
getting let out. I mean, he looks like a whoa,
yeah,
like a rabid Santa Claus or something.
yeah, it's almost maybe this is a good thing in a way. He's getting a little unhealthy. I'm kind of thinking I'm almost, not to compare the two, almost like Nikola Tesla
Or Howard
his last
Hughes.
days. Yeah, Howard Hughes, another guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at this picture. He's this old, frail man with this crazy beard, and he's just like, ah. I mean, 7 years inside. I mean, you know, but he is somebody, and I want to say, okay, two things with the Facebook feed. Do me a favor, tap the like button and tap the hearts button. Let us know that you're active, so it interacts and the algorithm starts to like us again. Because some days we're allowed to show our stuff to the world, and some days we're not. So I think tapping likes and hearts helps. So thank you very much. I want to say hi to Jeremy over here. He's saying, "What's up, guys?" He's answering the question: is he a hero or a traitor? He's saying all the above. Is he a villain? Is he a saint? He's all of the above. He's a little bit of this. He's a little bit of that. And Keith Piper over here. Hi, Keith. He's saying technically he did break the law, but Podesta's emails were very entertaining, which is accurate.
Yeah.
And it comes down to the question of what is news? What is newsworthy? What is a criminal act? And I think
What's protected by journalism?
what is
First
protected by journalistic integrity with the First Amendment. I mean, we have the right to say whatever the hell we want, and you have the right to turn it off. And sponsors have the right to pay money to advertise, and sponsors have the right to pull their ads if there's a boycott. That's how freedom is supposed to work. Where this gets complicated, Blake, you know, and it's complicated because you have people like Edward Snowden, Glenn Greenwald, Tulsi Gabbard, a lot of people. Tulsi saying that the arrest threatens journalists, saying to be quiet, behave, and toe the line. Greenwald is really outraged at this, and as far as Edward Snowden, he's calling it a dark moment for freedom. So, you know, there are truth tellers, there are people that speak truth to power that are seeing this as a bad thing. However, you know, I've had many family members and friends and coworkers that have served in the military, and if any of this information that's just been exposed and leaked, classified information, has been used to kill United States troops, well then, screw him and screw that. So how are we supposed to split the difference on this, Blake? How are we supposed to try to weigh the public good of knowledge and information versus the damaging effects of leaking classified information that could literally be connected to the deaths of our servicemen and the destruction of, you know, the goals of the United States military?
I think what people are some people are saying and kind of alluding to is that I guess both can be right. He can be a hero in some cases, and maybe putting out more or TMI, too much information, or something that maybe the public doesn't need to see. And yes, if people died, now if he was, you know, manipulating Bradley Manning or Chelsea Manning now, who we know her by, I don't know exactly to the full extent. They were chatting, and Chelsea released a bunch of information.
Was it Bradley at the time?
At the time, it was Bradley. Yes.
Then don't dead name him, her.
Right.
Say it right. That was Bradley Manning.
It's confusing. I know.
It's
another
all
one of these
confusing,
things.
but that's
Yeah.
the point.
Right.
That's the goal of this leftist campaign for the past couple decades, to just confuse everything. And
yeah, that was a weird
get us
turn of
fighting each
events
other.
when all of a sudden Bradley decided to become Chelsea. That was very, very strange. And hey, whatever. It's good on them. Be your authentic self, Chelsea, whatever that is. And we salute you. Now, I'm not sure about, well, that's the other thing. Did they do a good thing? Was that, are we better off as a country, as a society, because of the classified intel docs from the State Department or the Department of Justice or what have you, the military, on what they did? And did people get killed because of that? I don't know. Now, I remember right away they had the thing with like the helicopter. There was some kind of one of the videos that disturbed Bradley Manning, and maybe that caused him to want to leak intel, was that there was some innocent people killed and that they had censored the video. But I mean, in war, sometimes mistakes happen. Innocent people get killed. Now, do we need to report on it? Maybe, but maybe not, leaking classified stuff that wasn't in the general interest and that could have compromised people. They released a lot of information, so I have no idea, honestly, if people were compromised, if people died as a result of that. And if they did, this is a bad thing, and they probably do deserve to be punished for it. So maybe Bradley felt like he was doing a good thing, but then who is Julian to discern what should be released, what shouldn't?
Who's the gatekeeper? Who is the
Right.
ultimate gatekeeper of information? And that's one of the most important questions we need to be asking in 2019. Is it Alexa? Is it Facebook? Is it Jack Dorsey? Is it Zuckerberg? Like, who's allowed to censor information? Is it president? Whether it's your president or not my president, or my president, or whoever it is, who determines truthiness? Wasn't that a Colbert phrase, the truthiness?
Perhaps.
But this is a very interesting crossroads. I mean, we named Edward Snowden the TNAM Person of the Year when he came out and he exposed what was happening with all of the corruption, all the Fourth Amendment violations. He wasn't supposed to do that, and he was public enemy number one because the United States was embarrassed. Well, we have a Fourth Amendment. It's pretty doggone important that we're not supposed to be the subjects of spying campaigns, whether it's your guy in office or your girl in office, whatever the case may be. So it does raise a lot of questions, and it's interesting how our top three stories today are kind of connected with privacy and freedom and First Amendment issues like that. But what are the details that we know? What kind of notes did you take? Because how much time do we have?
We have 10 minutes and 16 seconds.
How many notes you got on this
Let's
one?
cruise through. This is
Cruise
one of the
through.
Daily Mail. This is some of the notes I took from this. So Assange was dragged out in handcuffs. Of course, he fears extradition to the United States. He's facing up to 12 months in British prison for skipping bail to avoid extradition to Sweden. These are probably trumped up charges on rape or what have you, because they were looking for something to pin on him to silence him.
Aren't you supposed to believe all women?
Give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
Even the accused?
Of course.
But that's not believing all women. You're supposed to believe all women when
Blindly?
anyone says...
Right.
Blindly.
Well, okay.
Blindly.
Maybe we'll agree to disagree on that point.
Okay, I'll
Right.
disagree with that point as well,
Okay.
because everybody is subject to critique.
Sure.
In fact, checkiness.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. So he was conspiring, with whistleblower Bradley, now Chelsea Manning, to break a password to a classified government computer. So Manning, I guess, had some access, but was able to go above his pay grade and access more with, this is what's being alleged, with Julian Assange's help. So that would be a serious charge if some journalist is trying to compromise a U.S. asset to release classified information. Not good.
By the way, Jeremy's chiming in here in the Agree to Disagree group. He's saying, believe evidence. Hashtag believe evidence. That's pretty
There you
good.
go. Yeah.
Something the media did not do with this Russian collusion delusion for 3 years. They were all in on it. First, an attempt to keep him out of office, and then a second to overthrow him. I digress. Go ahead.
No worries. Okay, so so what is it? It's one of the largest compromises of classified info in U.S. history. Of course, he fears extradition because he's facing up to 5 years in jail. So really, all in said, the worst case scenario is he does like 6 years, which is less than what he did at the embassy, which is 7 years. Anyway, I'm sidetracked. Court hearing is going to be like May 2nd for a possible extradition to the United States. He was hauled out of the embassy today. Yeah, we're looking scruffy, beard, wild hair. Yeah, not looking good. Probably he can't even go out into the window and get sunshine because he's afraid he's going to get assassinated. There could be snipers on him or what have you. Certainly during the 2016 election, the Hillary camp wanted him dead. He did a lot of damage. The Ecuadorian president that was, helping him. Well, the initial one was granted him asylum in this embassy. The one that the current Ecuadorian president withdrew the asylum status because of allegedly discourteous and aggressive behavior. That could be true. And looking at him, he doesn't look like he needs a little sunshine, needs a little rest. He needs to get out of his out of that funk that he was in that you can only imagine on a 7 years of house arrest. He's interfering with internal affairs, allegedly, of other states, blocking security cameras, mistreating guards. Apparently, the prior president has condemned the new president's decision. What else? Manning was convicted leaking 700,000 military and State Department docs to WikiLeaks, but he was released after 7 years of a 35-year sentence from Obama. That is out of the Daily Mail. I could go on to the Guardian. Let's see if I can get some new info. So, 7 years since Assange skipped bail and sought refuge at the embassy. There's a change in attitude about Ecuadorian support has dropped, including its politics. Ecuador also not in a good financial position. They've been borrowing money from the International Monetary Fund, which is mostly funded from the United States, so that gave him more leverage. Of course, the United States wants him to face charges. Let's see, rumors began. Let's see. I'm trying to read some of my writing, but it looks like I'm mostly... He believes in publishing things that should not always be published, but also expose things that should have never been hidden. So, it's a lot of interesting stuff. I think that's what I have. Maybe one more. Here's kind of a thing. What's going on with... here's the point maybe I am not seeing. What has Assange done for us lately? Not that I'm complaining. There was some really good stuff in 2016, the Podesta stuff. But one of the things that I'm seeing overlooked was there's this hack attack that we had late in 2016, allegedly when they were going to do another big data dump of more Podesta emails. And they were saying how 2017 was going to be even better than 2016. And yet 2017 went around, 2018 went past. And it's like, what has WikiLeaks come out with in the last couple of years? So they were dropping some devastating stuff in 2016. They had a lot of power. But now...
So you think they kind of been neutered with Assange?
I think so. I think they absolutely neutered. So there was this huge, what do they call it, a DDoS attack?
Denial of service?
Yeah. Remember
was
that?
it dedicated denial of service?
And they never really pinpointed exactly who it was. So that's...
Well, who's done that? I know Stuxnet and some of those have been Israel over, to like Iranian nuclear facilities and...
This one could have just been like a deep state thing. Now, if they were concerned that they were doing a big data dump, because there was two things that were worrisome. There was one that they were putting out more Podesta stuff, the juicier stuff, and then there was the possibility, I forget what they called it, where they would do the massive everything in case they were ever compromised and they needed to just release everything. So... that could have been some very sophisticated
was that
way of shutting it down.
The dead man switch?
Yeah, that's boom. Thank you,
The
Brian.
dead man switch.
Yeah.
It was like you're holding you you have the device. So you see it in the movies. The bad guy will have the device and they'll press the button, and you can go ahead and snipe me, but when I die.
Yep.
So yeah, the dead man switch is always that warning. It's like, man, you got one shot at this. You got one shot at this, and roll the dice if you want.
Yeah.
Roll the dice because I got all this stuff behind me, and it's a smart move. It's a smart move to leave
some
stuff
people
behind you, ready to go.
Theorized that was what they were intending to do when the walls were closing in. They did that, but then all of a sudden this attack comes out, and everything disappears. And then what have we seen? Not much.
Not much.
WikiLeaks. And there's also thought that Assange was compromised or WikiLeaks was compromised as a result of that whole thing. Everything went down at that same time. So I think he's been neutered. So maybe this is not such a terrible thing that he is maybe being put into custody. Hopefully he doesn't do a ton of time. I guess my critique, I think that he's mostly heroic, but I think you got to be very discerning about what kind of information you're releasing and what belongs in the public. Now, Glenn Greenwald, I think, has been very, good about what he's releasing with the Edward Snowden stuff. He didn't put out a ton of stuff, but I thought that, what he was exposing. And another point is, like with the Pentagon Papers back in the day. If you're going to expose classified information, but maybe that's in the general public's, it's for the greater good. You're seeing that the United States is involved in basically shenanigans, and they're, the war isn't going well, and maybe it deserves to be exposed, so the public can say, okay, this is enough of it. Clearly, this is not going the way they want it to, and it's time to pull out. So that's not the case of what happened with Chelsea Manning. But there's also the WikiLeaks in 2016, which exposed all the Podesta emails, which I think we did need to see. And it showed that DNC was cheating Bernie Sanders. And it shows that, John Podesta might have some... he's got some dealings with some really
you gonna go there?
Bad people. I don't know. I'm not going to go there. Not going to go there.
You going to go there?
It deserves further scrutiny, I think, on the Democrats and what Podesta was up to, and some of these things.
In the chat rooms on the Facebook groups, Jeremy's saying that due process is the key to freedom, and Keith is asking, does someone else have access to the dead man switch? I would think Assange would have something planned in case of his arrest. That is very interesting. I'm curious to see if something is about to go down now, if something has already been released.
I think it was that attack. What do you call it again? DDoS?
Dedicated denial of service. I believe it's a DDoS.
I think that's when WikiLeaks went down. They went from like a very powerful, like the world leaders are freaking out, like you never know what this guy's going to release at what time, and to all of a sudden like, okay, WikiLeaks is just
it's
thing, big deal, blah blah blah. It's faded. It's not that important. And now he's arrested. And, But, okay, there's our 15 minutes, Brian. Our 15 minutes are up.
15 minutes are up.
Your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.